2 years ago, I bought this Ford Crown Victoria with a blown engine as my first project car. Now, with barely any experience, I was able to put a new engine in, but I made plenty of mistakes. Now, this engine is knocking on death's door. The last time you saw this car, I tried to make it faster and failed epically. But in today's video, I'll be saving my car and making it faster along the way. I'd like to talk to you about the history of this car. 2 years ago, I bought this 2002 Ford Crown Victoria for $1,000 with a blown engine. And being 18 with barely any experience, I had no clue what I was doing. And that's how I ended up with this, an engine from a 1999 Lincoln Town Car. It's a 4.6 2-valve, just like what came in all Crown Victoria and Panther platform cars. But there's a small issue. It's what is known as a non-power improved 4.6. Basically, in 1998 for Mustangs and 2001 for Crown Victorias and the likes, Ford introduced a power improved engine, which is what this car should have. Basically, I'm missing 30 to 50 horsepower. Combine that with burning a quart of oil every 500 miles, I think it's about to lay this old dog to rest. First, I needed to find a new engine, and for that, I went to Gene Guys Used Auto Parts just down the road. They aren't today's sponsor, but they're all genuine guys that actually care about getting you what you need. So if you're in southern New Hampshire or northern Mass, go check them out. And that's how I ended up with this, a 4.6 out of a 2005 Crown Victoria Police Interceptor with 100,000 miles. Remember how I said that I tried making this car faster and failed epically? Last year, I took this car on a road trip, 900 miles to Michigan and 900 miles back. You could see it in this video. And along the way, I made 3 modifications. We chopped off the rear cats, added an upgraded intake tube, and put on the famous Marty tune. But I made a mistake. Basically, I got the tune before I knew I was going to buy an intake tube, so the tune wasn't expecting an increase in airflow. And so the car ran lean, and I ran a second slower in the quarter mile. But what you didn't see was basically just after that video was posted, I had a remote tuning session with Marty Oakes himself, and he helped set my car straight. And in preparation of today's video, I took the car back up to New England Dragways to get a baseline, and it ran a 16.56, which is just over half a second faster than its previous best time. Either way, we've got a lot of work to do to refresh this new engine and make it fit the older chassis car. So let's get going. We finally have the engine in from Gene Guys, and it's about time we actually get to preparing this engine to go into the car. The first thing that I'm going to have to do is undress this engine, get all this wiring harness off, because this wiring harness is for a 2005, and so it will not work with the 2002 body. Okay, and now our motor is fully undressed. Now, what I would also like to bring up with you is to try and keep track of things that you know that you're not going to use, but aren't really for sale anymore. These vacuum lines are a good example. I looked up the part number on eBay and nobody is selling them. I looked up the part on Ford Parts Giant and it's completely discontinued. You can't find them. So parts like this will probably go up on eBay for like $20. I know for certain that this EGR tube you're not going to find anywhere. So I'm going to do my best to try and save it, and then I'll list that for maybe also $20. It seems like this wiring harness only has one listing on eBay, so I'll package the entire engine wiring harness and the starter wiring harness together for maybe $200. Now, if everything sells, I should only be in this engine for around $240. But I'm going to continue plucking away at things that I know I'm not going to use. Hi, Future Wade from like 3 or 4 weeks from when this was filmed. I lost all the footage of taking the exhaust manifolds down. I'll just basically walk through you what I did. There's a tool called an induction heater you buy off of Amazon for like $150. All that I did is take this electrode, put it over, you press the button, and after 30 or so seconds, the nut will heat up cherry red, and you could take it off no issue. And I'll let past Wade explain to you how to get the studs out of the head. So now I need to get all of these studs out. And in order to do that, I'm gonna use this stud extractor. I literally just bought at O'Reilly's. I've tried it. I've gotten 3 studs out so far. I will also be using a little bit of MAPP gas, and I'll show you how that works. Basically, all that I'm doing is holding the majority of this tool still. Basically, all I'm doing is holding the majority of this tool still, and then going counterclockwise with a 3/8 drive breaker bar, or by the looks of it, like a 1 1/8 inch wrench. Basically, all I'm just going to do is go counterclockwise until it gets nice and tight. And I go the extra mile. All I'm going to do is take a little bit of MAPP gas and just heat up the head a little bit, and that should help free up this stud. And now from here, give her the beans. And just like that, it breaks loose. This is an incredible tool, and I wish that I had this tool sooner. It was $23 at O'Reilly's, if anybody's curious, and it's the one that goes down to a 1/4 inch. Hi dog, why are you in here? And because that's down so tight, with the stud still in the head, I'm just going to break it loose. Like that. So now this drops down, and I could use a pair of vice grips on the probably hot stud and take it out. Or maybe use better vice grips. That is incredibly great. Now I will repeat this for all of the studs. Okay, I have gone ahead and cleaned up all the gasket surface on both heads for the exhaust and also for the intake manifold. Basically what I did was I chopped up some pieces of rag and stuffed them inside the intake runners and the water jackets as well. And that's basically just to keep any dust from going in. And after I finished sanding everything, I just took my vacuum and vacuumed it up. Now the next step should be taking off these valve covers. I'm a little bit worried about this driver's side valve cover because some of the hardware is just a little bit rusty, but it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, time to crack these guys open. Basically what I'm doing to get this apart is I'm taking the screwdriver and I'm really just twisting it. And what that's doing is actually prying the seal loose on the gasket to where the only thing holding it on now is just the factory RTV on that top right corner. There we go. Valve cover off and banging off of everything, which is what I do with your mother. And wow, this engine actually looks incredibly clean. Let me go and take the driver's side off now. Let's see what we're working with here. Again, all I'm doing is just taking the screwdriver and then twisting it and popping it like that. This side has a lot more oil in it. And the cam lobes on this also seem to be in incredibly good shape. Now that these valve covers are off, I'm hopefully going to take this timing cover off. For the most part, it looks like it's all going to be 13 millimeters, except for a few 18 millimeters up here on the top. This has a 15 holding this. This does something with your radio to block the interference of the coil, something like that. And then there's also some 13s holding it in from the bottom of the oil pan. There's also the crankshaft position sensor. I don't know if this is necessarily needs to come out, but I'll pull it out anyway, just in case. Something tells me something is going to break, and it's probably going to be this pulley. something tells me that I'm not doing something properly and that I should probably look it up. It's times like these where Google is your best friend, and after doing some Googling, I figured out that this is the proper tool that I need to use. Now this tool is called a harmonic balancer puller kit. Basically the way that this works is this guy just threads into here. You put on your little adapter plug on the top. There's like this little O-ring in it. And then you have 3 bolts that actually bolt into these holes in the harmonic balancer themselves. Now, I actually had this tool the other day, but I thought that I had it wrong because none of the bolts in this kit would fit inside these holes. But it turns out the threads on these holes were completely rusted, and so I had to tap them out. If you need to do this, it is a size M8 by 125 thread. But all I have to do now is just thread them into place. You don't want to go too crazy because these threads are open at the back. You could actually end up driving the bolts through the timing cover, which is not a good thing. Basically, I'm just going in with this until I can't really tighten it anymore using a socket and my hand. And then I'm just gonna go take my finger. There's just barely enough room where I can sneak a finger in and feel to make sure that the bolt isn't going all the way through and touching the timing cover. And then from there, I'll go tighten down this center piece. It's probably gonna be a 17. This is a size 19. Oh, and this is already working much better than the 3-jaw puller that I had. When I did some more research in it this morning and last night, you actually aren't supposed to use 3-jaw pullers on crankshaft pulleys. I didn't know that, but now I do. The reason why is that you could end up actually damaging the little flutes or ridging on the pulley itself. But just like that, it pops right off. Nice. Now you don't have to worry about remembering orientation of this pulley itself because it has a keyway in the crankshaft and the keyway on the harmonic balancer. This tool was free to rent from O'Reilly's. In case you're curious, it is part number 67007. All you have to do is put down like a $22 down payment just in case, you know, you end up walking away with it. And just like that, I'm done with this tool. I think they also have a tool that's designed to put these back on. I'm not too certain. I've also seen people use the old crankshaft pulley bolt to actually just zip them back down. Keep in mind that the crankshaft pulley bolt is non-reusable. What I like to do first is just break all of the bolts loose at one time. Then afterwards I could come in with a ratchet and actually get them all undone. And there it is. That's all of them broken loose. So from here I should be able to pull them all off using a ratchet. You know, before I get ahead of myself, this is another one of those times where I'm going to take some really detailed photos of what goes where, just in case I forget. And then to further protect myself from failure, once I get this valve cover off, what I'll end up doing is just putting all the hardware back into their spots. Still need to take off this crankshaft position sensor. This is one of those things where I probably should replace it while it's out of the car right now, because there's an air compressor that sits right here that could potentially make this hard to get out in case it ever goes bad. Like I said earlier, I'll just take the bolt that came out with it and put it back into the valve cover. By the looks of it, this front seal has definitely been leaking, and that's actually the entire reason why I'm pulling everything apart. Is while the engine is out of the car, might as well go the full length and replace all external seals. At least that way you'll have an engine that won't leak for a very long time. Oh, here we go. There's actually quite a few RTV locations on this. Oh. And here it goes. And before I move any further, like I said earlier, I'm just going to put all my bolts back into the locations. Now that we have this timing cover off, I can now make some observations. We have a metal-backed primary tensioner runner and a metal casted tensioner. This side's tensioner still has some pressure in it, so there's absolutely no slop at all. This one didn't have any pressure, but as soon as you start the car up, this tensioner will get oil pressure and take away any and all slack in this system. What I do is I could lift up this chain a little bit and actually look and see the groove that's in there. This groove isn't bad at all, and honestly, I'll probably run this timing set. It doesn't look to be in bad shape. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and drop this oil pan, which hopefully doesn't have any oil in it. That was smart, Ford. Already on the first hitch, this oil filter housing has to come off in order to get this oil pan bolt out. This is why we hate engineers around here. And down she goes. Looks nice. Pickup screen has nothing in it. Down here it should just be a scrape the gasket area, put the new gasket and the new oil pan on. So I'm gonna let that drain there. I'm gonna go out for lunch and do a little bit more Googling. All right, and it's actually been a couple weeks since I last worked on this engine, but we're gonna keep plugging away at it. And so I have a nice and shiny brand new Spectra oil pan and Felpro gasket. In the last clip, you actually saw me take the oil pan off. Now it is time to put a different one on. The reason being is because the 2002 and 2005 model years, they have different front ends that require a different pickup tube, which I already changed out, and a different oil pan. While looking in the Haynes manual, which you should all have on whatever vehicle you're working on, I found that the torque specifications for these oil pan bolts are 15 foot-pounds plus 60 degrees. Well, I don't have a torque wrench that could read in degrees, so guten tight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from one side of the engine to the other, from the middle of the engine outwards in either direction. And basically what that's doing is making sure that the gasket lays out evenly across all surfaces. And this was the very first torque wrench that I ever bought from Harbor Freight. It's the, I think this is the Pittsburgh one. It sucks, it barely clicks at all, and it's barely noticeable, but I'm used to it now. And there it is. Now it's time to put the timing cover on. And you'll actually see with a couple of different pieces, I have taken them all and brightened them up and refreshed them, and the timing cover is one of those. My coworkers recommended me this International RTV silicone rubber, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some right where all three surfaces meet. So you'll see right down here at the oil pan, block, and timing cover, Lucy is being incredibly loud. Right down in this corner, where the block meets the head and the timing cover, and where the valve cover meets the head and the timing cover. You'll see me put this RTV there as well. And I also have the fresh timing cover gaskets right here that will go into place. Now that I have these new gaskets in, I could go ahead and take the RTV, like I said, and place them in the spots that they're necessary. This stuff smells like seafood. Whoa! I don't think I asked you. Okay, there is a very specific torquing sequence with this timing cover. I'm just learning now. 1 through 7 getting torqued to 18 foot-pounds. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then 6, 7, and all the ones that you didn't touch get torqued to 35. This is for 99 through 2005 models, which this engine is a 2005. Okay. Okay, then from here, all the rest, 6 and 7 go over again at 35, and then all the rest go as well. So 6, 7, 35, everything that you haven't touched, 35 as well. 8. Whoa! That was not a good sound. I'm gonna do it again. Oh, that was... No, that is not good. That is incredibly not good. Oh, fuck you. Actually though, you. Okay, well at least it's not stuck in place. I could still get it out, but not yet. I have to get the valve covers on first before that silicone dries. And as for torque specs for these, they are 70 to 105 inch-pounds. Geez, now that I have these valve covers on, I don't have to worry about the RTV setting too fast. I could actually now talk about the video sponsor, Max Speeding Rods. Now, everybody knows them as being the place to go to find cheap aftermarket turbos or coilovers. Well, here's another thing. They also sell aftermarket OEM style parts. In this case, parts like a water pump for 98 through 2002 Crown Victorias and other submodels that fit this. And in this case, valve covers. These are actually for a 2-valve E150. However, they also work for 2000, I believe, 6 and up Crown Victorias, Panther platforms. Pause. While editing this video, I found out they actually added a lot more stuff for the Ford Crown Victoria and the 4.6 valve. For the older generation car, they added a turn signal stalk. For the newer generation car, they added a whole lot more. 31 spline differential carrier with track lock, a fuel sender with a fuel pump, water pump, power steering pump, rear brake calipers, cooling fan control module, and a complete front suspension rebuild kit. And for parts that fit all 98 through 11 cars, they added the AC blower motor, window regulators, and a transmission pan with a drain plug. If you're interested in buying any of these items, click the link down below and use the code WTT for 10% off your final purchase. This is your reminder that Max Speeding Rods doesn't only sell cheap aftermarket coilovers and turbos, but also factory style aftermarket parts as well. And we'll continue with building this engine. We have our water pump, Now, make sure that everything is nice and clean in here. There will potentially be some rust, but you just kind of want to make sure that everything is somewhat clean. And also, you could get some oil or grease or something to lubricate this O-ring as it goes in. Luckily enough, I still have my old oil pan and it has a smidge of oil left in it. You don't need a lot, just enough to wet the O-ring so that it doesn't tear or bind up when you go to put it on. And the weep hole you'll see on a water pump is always going to face directly up. Okay, from here I could go a couple different directions. I could put the front seal onto the front of the engine with the crankshaft pulley, but actually something that I'm excited about, the new intake that came out recently. I have it. First, I'll take our new set of Apex gaskets that I can't seem to get open for the life of me. There are little tiny locators that are on these gaskets. Slap these on, and now I get to show you the new intake. It is heavy. Wow. Boom. New intake. Nice. This is the brand new Speedmaster intake that literally came out last week. I ordered it on Wednesday. It got here on Monday. Comes with an alternator bracket, new intake plenum gasket, and hardware. This intake was $525 from Speedmaster79.com. It is fully aluminum and is incredibly similar to the Professional Performance Typhoon intake. But unlike the Typhoon intake, you don't find these for $1,500 on eBay. You find them for $525 off of the website. Yeah, out. Okay, now that I have all of these snugged down, I'm just going to go through the regular 4.6 intake manifold torque sequence. So I have a diagram right here that tells me what pattern to tighten them in. And it should be, I believe it said 15 to 22 foot-pounds. Yes, 15 to 22. Okay, don't kill me, but I lost quite a bit of footage. But mostly all it was just putting the intake plenum on, putting the injectors in their holes. The Speedmaster intake definitely looks sick. Just one thing to know, it does not come with a thermostat housing cap like this. So you'll have to reuse your old one or buy a new one if you want it to look nice and shiny like this. Now, one thing that I noticed with the Speedmaster intake is this 5th intake plenum bolt on the VIX only. It's not lined up. Whereas if this was in a Mustang application and you spun this around, that 5th intake bolt would go right here, and I tried it, it does line up. So while I am waiting for a few of the last parts to come in, might as well take these exhaust manifolds and put them on, starting with the studs. You'll notice right here that there's this flat piece with no threads on it. Basically all you're going to do is you're going to screw it in and bottom it out, and this little flat piece should line up perfectly with the face of the manifold surface. You'll see that little flat area with no threads sits exactly where the gasket sits. And so I'll just repeat for all 16 manifold bolts. Manifold time. Whoa. You didn't see that. I did look at the torque specifications for these. They are 15 to 22 foot-pounds. And same thing as the oil pan, I'm just going to start from the center and work my way out. And it seems as though that impact gun got it everything to where it needed to be. Boom, and now I'll go do the other side. Well, now that I have the exhaust manifolds up in place, it's time to move on to one of the very last things that goes on this timing cover, and that is the crankshaft pulley and the water pump pulley. Now, instead of going for a factory replacement, I actually shot for these Steeda underdrive pulleys off of ADTR.net. They were $300 some odd, and they're advertised to give an extra 10-ish horsepower. Either way, I figured I was taking the crankshaft pulley off anyway, might as well. One of my friends, he actually recommended putting clear coat over these, and I did not let the clear coat dry long enough. And I just put a giant handprint on my crankshaft pulley. Nice. Anyway, what I have here is a crankshaft pulley installer. Also another rented tool from O'Reilly's. One thing that you will need to do is take more of your silicone stuff and you want to put it on the keyway of the crankshaft. Like that. Wipe this seafood off my finger. And now I have to do this fast, so don't blame me, I'm probably not going to end up talking. And just to double make sure that I'm not going to have any issues with oil leaks, I'm also going to top off the end of the keyway with more silicone. Now I could install our one-time use crankshaft bolt. And again, this is another item that I went to Chris from ADTR for. It was like $30. Okay. And it's tight enough to where it's going to start rotating the actual crankshaft and spin the engine over. What I'm going to do is take a screwdriver and shove it through one of the torque converter holes on the flywheel, and that'll keep it from spinning over. Vibration dampener to crankshaft bolt. 97 and later, 66, then loosen bolt. Then 34 to 39, then tighten another 90 degrees. Okay. Okay. Now loosen. Okay. Now 34 to 39. Okay. And then another 90 degrees. And there we go. That guy's on now. Now I could do the water pump pulley. And I actually accidentally hit one of these bolts with a hammer while I was trying to knock the original water pump off. So I got new bolts. Okay, now the water pump pulley is on. I'll wait until we actually get a belt on here before I actually zip everything down. I could actually go ahead and actually get our power steering pump on. I was being a little bit silly because, you know, earlier I couldn't get the oil pan off without taking the housing off, without taking the power steering pump off, but now I can. And this power steering pump is another part that I got from Max Speeding Rods. Except this one I didn't get for free. I bought it with my own money because I put my money where my mouth is. It does seem as though the actual crankshaft pulley itself isn't pushed all the way in. That's not a big deal. When I go and return the crankshaft pulley installer, I'll go and get a power steering pulley installer. And it's been about a week since I recorded. I did a bunch of work off camera. I got an amazing deal on a new old stock oil filter adapter housing. Only issue is that I'm missing the little stud guy that comes out of it where the actual oil filter goes onto it. I'll have to pull that off of the old engine. I was able to find a fuel rail on eBay. They wanted $150 for it. I shot them an offer at $90 and I got it. I found a wiring harness at a junkyard from a 2002 town car. It was chopped up a little bit, but I did repair it. Some guy wanted the fender off the car, and instead of using, you know, the connector that was 2 inches away, they decided to snip the harness right here. When it comes back to the EGR, these manifolds, they don't actually come with a thread adapter. Technically speaking, this adapter is a -10AN to -10AN male. And the part number is a Dorman 917-400. And I got this at AutoZone. When it comes to the EGR, that is part number 598-142. This you could actually get off of Amazon. One, it's cheaper than going through a actual store, but it's also a 2-day delivery, and every other place I looked at had like a 1-week lead time. I'm not 100% certain if this EGR tube and this adapter is 100% correct. The town car that I took this harness off of actually had this EGR pressure module, I believe it's called. It had it more up here like this or like this. And on the Crown Vics, for some reason, they're actually bolted in with a bracket right here. My hope being is that when I pull the old engine out, I'll be able to just take the old bracket off and hopefully this tube will be correct. Worst case scenario, I'll just have to go through the painstaking process of getting the old EGR tube off. It's not too big of a deal, but it is annoying. And when I was off at work one day, my buddy Nate came over to take the car for
Our last ride.
in order to.
Sucking all the juice.
He gooped. He gooped. Why did you goop? Why did you goop?
My juices are leaking.
Your juices are leaking? Anyway, I had to go to work on Friday. Nate didn't have any work. He got a head start and he got a very far away. This engine is practically ready to come out already. Just a few bolts on the underside of the transmission. Still working on that lower radiator hose and the motor mounts. And then this engine should be good to come up and out, huh?
I think so. I mean, I'm confused on the wiring. He knows how the wiring is.
Yeah, it's set. Let's get going. Do you think that we'll have this out by tonight?
Depends on how long the day lasts. Yeah.
Well,
Seems like we have another hour, maybe.
maybe another hour, and then we have tacos.
And that, yeah, which kind of makes me not want to do this morning.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Oh, don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah. You might get the car pregnant.
Please.
Wait, what? Don't bounce up.
There we go.
I win!
You didn't just break the cats by slamming it on the ground.
Yeah, who needs those anyway?
Look how blue that is. Ew.
Yeah, fancy stainless steel that isn't quite stainless now, is it? And now to get these Bellhausen bolts there. Tighter than a... I can't finish that.
Tighter than...
Hey, I gotta bleep that out.
I said so.
Are you sure about that?
I did say...
Are you sure about that?
Listen to listen.
Because post-editing Wade might do you dirty.
Yeah, that's... Yes.
To be like, hey, do you guys have any gaskets at all? Because I'm like, surely an exhaust shop will have exhaust gaskets. No, they didn't have any exhaust gaskets.
Really?
So I went back and forth to Advanced and O'Reilly's. And remember I told you that story about the guy at Advanced that was like, you're impersonating a cop with that license?
Yeah.
That was what I was doing when I was... I was trying to find fucking exhaust gaskets, and that guy's like, dude, you're impersonating a cop with that license plate. I said, you. Is that still recording?
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be nice. I'm gonna have to beep out so much.
90%.
90% of that. Nate. Giggity. Oh, your mother. Good morning, everyone. Now, as you probably saw, we did get the engine out last night. And this morning, I spent a little bit of time crossing over a few of the last items that were necessary. We ended up disconnecting the AC lines just from that port and that port instead of taking it off at the AC compressor because there was barely any room. So I swapped that over. We also took off the power steering line off of the gearbox itself. I have another one of those coming in, $30, why not? This hose right here needed to get changed. We did also have to take the charge / battery cables / starter wires off. And here on the back side, there's just an 8mm holding this bracket on. up against the head. And besides a few other nicks and knacks, this engine is all set to go in. Now, one thing in particular when it comes to Fords, when you're doing an engine swap, the first thing that you actually hook up is the torque converter. Now, when you are doing an engine swap in a Ford like this, you want to take note of the orientation of the torque converter and where those studs line up. That way, we could take the engine, spin it over while it's still on the stand, and get these holes lined up at least somewhat close. So when this gets ready to go in there, it'll be somewhat close. We could spin it a little bit and get it right in. Getting the phone dangerously close.
Wade has inserted the green juice. Now it's gonna, when you turn it on, it's either gonna blow a big bubble out and blow it all out, or just suck it right through.
Okay.
All right, first start. Make sure it's in park, please, so you don't kill me. All right, shift linkage is on and everything? All right. Yeah, I'll just move.
Ready?
Sure.
Actually, I'm gonna cycle the fuel pump.
Yeah, I'd do that. Let me make, hold on. Keep going.
Well,
Good.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Sick. Nice. All right. Runs very nice. There's no alternator lead, but that's okay.
Oh,
No, it's okay. It's okay. Why?
that's kind of important. Because all my jump packs suck and they won't start one of these cars.
Oh, you're lucky we're not welding right now.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Dude, this car was running and it wasn't running bad.
It sounded good, yeah. Take two. Happier now. Give it like a minute of idle before you touch. That was good.
Hit it again. All right. Really, just put an engine in, out and in 2 days.
In a day, I'd say a day and a half.
Yeah. So, now we have this engine finally running in the car. I am 100% ecstatic, and I haven't been this happy about something in a very long time. So, what's going to happen, we're going to put everything together. I'm going to drive this car around for about a week, and then I'll head back up to New England Drags, and we'll see how we did. Well, this is what happens when you buy brand new parts. You have to work out kinks, and it seems like this alternator crapped the bed straight out of the box. I am dead with like 9 volts of battery left, driving home from a car meet. But guess who I happened to break down at? So Gene's nice enough to give me a jump start. We're back sitting at 12.3 volts, which is plenty more than enough to get me home, but being a nice guy, Gene's gonna follow me the 9 minutes home. That's just one of those things, how alternators, even though they say that they're perfectly good on the sticker on top, sometimes they could just be crap. Well, it's been 2 weeks. I threw a new alternator on, got a new tune from Marty Oaks, and just last night I headed up to the drag strip to get our final time. I ran 3 passes and got my rear handed me every single time. Yeah, I knew there was no fucking way. As a reminder, our baseline was 16.56. And what did we run last night? 16.28. The car is faster, finally. And this video went exactly the way that I wanted it to. We fixed everything wrong with the car and made it faster. Now, videos like these take a very long time and they cost a lot of money. But if this video gets a lot of interest, I might just make it a yearly series. As of right now, we're only 150 public watch hours away from having the channel be monetized. You could help by watching one of these 2 videos up here. I'd like to say thank you for everyone that helped and everyone who stick around and watched to the end. Everybody, have a wonderful day.